Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into American business history, and our guide is this book called Enterprising Americans,
Yeah.
A Business History of the United States.
Okay.
Now, you might think business history sounds, well, a bit dry, but trust me, this book is anything but.
Right.
It's a really lively look at how businesses shaped the nation in ways you might not expect.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. What I think is so captivating about Enterprising Americans is how it goes beyond just facts and figures. It really dives into how these early business ventures actually influence some major events, like, get this, the American Revolution.
Wait, really? The American Revolution?
Yeah.
I always learned about it as this, fight for political freedom.
Right.
Are you telling me there's a whole business angle I've been missing?
Absolutely. The book takes us all the way back to the roots of American business.
Okay.
Some like bustling mercantile centers in New England and all the commerce flowing through the Delaware and James River valleys.
Okay.
These early entrepreneurs weren't just shopkeepers. They were really laying the groundwork for a nation that valued economic freedom.
So these early American business folks, they were revolutionaries in their own right,
Yeah,
fighting for the right to, well, do business.
exactly.
Okay.
Enterprising Americans talks about how colonists saw their economic activities as fundamental rights,
Right.
just as important as their political rights. They called them the rights of Englishmen.
Rights of Englishmen. Huh. That's a phrase I haven't heard before.
Yeah.
What exactly did that mean back then?
Well, it's rooted in British common law.
Okay.
Colonists believed they had inherent rights to trade, expand their businesses, and essentially build wealth without, undue interference. They felt these rights were being violated by British policies, and this fueled their desire for independence. It wasn't just about tea and taxes.
Right.
It was about controlling their own economic destinies.
Wow. That adds a whole new dimension to the story of the revolution.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about political representation. It was about economic freedom, too.
Absolutely.
It makes me wonder if we kind of take these economic freedoms for granted today. Are there any, modern-day parallels to these rights of Englishmen? Like debates about, I don't know, government regulations and individual liberties?
That's a really insightful connection. And yes, the echoes of those debates definitely resonate today. But let's get back to Enterprising Americans for a moment.
Okay.
The book really drives home this point, that this desire for economic freedom wasn't just a passing phase.
Yeah.
It was woven into the very fabric of the nation from the outset.
So American business and the growth of America itself, they're basically inseparable.
You could say that. That's a key takeaway from Enterprising Americans.
Okay.
It argues that the spirit of entrepreneurship was a driving force throughout American history, not just during the Revolution.
Okay. So we've seen how pivotal businesses were during the Revolution. But what about afterward? How did this, entrepreneurial spirit shape the nation as it started expanding westward?
That's where things get really exciting. Enterprising Americans kind of paints this vivid picture of how businesses weren't just passengers on the westward expansion train.
Right.
They were actually laying down the tracks. Take, for example, the railroad companies.
Okay, railroads, westward expansion. I'm following you. But what's the connection to business being a driving force?
Well, think about it. These railroad companies, they were driven by profit, right?
Yes.
And they were instrumental in connecting the East Coast to the West Coast. They literally opened up the West, transporting people, goods, and ideas, across these vast distances.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I imagine it wasn't all, smooth sailing, right? Weren't there conflicts? Especially with, I don't know, Native American tribes.
You're absolutely right. The book definitely doesn't shy away from the complexities.
Okay.
It acknowledges that while the railroads brought economic growth, they also, came at a cost. The expansion often led to displacement and conflict with indigenous communities.
Right.
It's a reminder that progress, even when driven by business, isn't always a simple win-win.
Yeah, that's a really important point. It reminds me of how, I don't know, we often celebrate innovation without fully acknowledging the potential downsides.
Precisely. Enterprising Americans really encourages us to look at history with a critical eye.
Yeah.
Recognizing both the achievements and the challenges associated with business expansion.
So we've gone from colonial merchants fighting for economic freedom
Right.
to railroads transforming the landscape of America. It seems like there's a consistent thread here. Business is driving change.
Yeah.
Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse.
You're picking up on the central theme here.
Okay.
The book argues that businesses have been agents of social change throughout American history, not just, focused on profit.
Okay, that's a fascinating idea.
Yeah.
But can you give me a specific example from the book? Something that really illustrates how businesses drove social change. Maybe something surprising.
Well, one example that comes to mind is the role of businesses in the abolition movement.
Really? Businesses involved in the fight against slavery? I wouldn't have guessed that.
It might seem counterintuitive, but some businesses, particularly in the North, they actively supported the abolitionist cause.
Yeah.
They saw slavery as morally wrong and economically inefficient. Some even helped finance the Underground Railroad,
Wow.
risking their profits and reputations to fight for what they believed in.
Wow. I never learned about that in school.
Yeah.
That completely changes my understanding of that period. It shows that businesses driven by their values
Right?
can actually be powerful forces for social change.
Exactly. It challenges the traditional view of businesses as solely profit-driven entities.
Right. This is giving me a whole new perspective on the impact of business throughout history. It's not just about products and services. It's about shaping society itself.
Yeah, that's the beauty of enterprising Americans. It reveals these hidden connections and kind of encourages us to think differently about the role of business.
So we've covered the revolution, westward expansion, and even touched on the abolition movement. What other historical periods does the book explore?
Well, it goes on to cover a wide range of eras, including the Industrial Revolution,
Right.
which was obviously a pivotal period for American business.
The Industrial Revolution, now that was a time of massive upheaval, right?
Oh, yeah.
Factories popping up everywhere, new technologies emerging. It must have been a wild time to be alive.
You're not wrong. Enterprising Americans does a fantastic job of capturing all that energy, that dynamism of that era.
Yeah.
It shows how businesses were at the forefront of this whole industrial boom, driving innovation, reshaping the economic landscape.
So was it all like progress and prosperity? Or were there downsides to this rapid industrial growth?
Well, like any period of intense change, the Industrial Revolution was a mixed bag, right?
Right.
It brought incredible technological advancements and economic growth, but it also created, new social problems.
Such as?
Well, the book talks about the rise of factory work,
Okay.
which led to really difficult working conditions for many people. Long hours, low wages, and unsafe environments were common. And this eventually gave rise to labor movements as workers began organizing to demand better treatment and fair compensation.
It's interesting to see how business and social movements were kind of intertwined during this period.
Yeah.
Businesses driving industrial growth, but also facing pushback from workers demanding their rights.
Exactly. Enterprising Americans highlights how businesses weren't just operating in isolation.
Yeah.
They were deeply embedded in the social fabric of the time, responding to and influencing the world around them.
That makes a lot of sense. Businesses don't exist in a vacuum, after all.
Nope.
They're part of a larger ecosystem.
Precisely. And this idea of interconnectedness, it's a key theme throughout the book. It encourages us to see business history not just as a series of, isolated events,
Right.
but as an integral part of the broader American story.
So we've journeyed from colonial merchants to railroads to the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
Is there a common thread that kind of runs through all these periods, according to enterprising Americans?
I think the common thread is adaptability.
Okay.
Throughout American history, businesses have had to constantly adapt to changing circumstances, from wars and revolutions to technological advancements and social movements.
That makes sense. The ability to adapt and innovate
Yeah.
is probably key to survival in any field, but especially in business.
Absolutely. And enterprising Americans suggest that this spirit of adaptability, it's one of the defining characteristics of American business.
Well, this deep dive has given me a whole new appreciation for, the complexity and impact of business throughout American history.
Yeah.
It's not just about profits and products. It's about shaping the nation we live in today.
I'm glad to hear that. That's exactly what Enterprising Americans sets out to do.
Yeah.
It challenges us to think critically about the role of business, recognizing its influence on everything from technology and infrastructure to social movements and cultural values.
It's been an eye-opening conversation. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into enterprising Americans.
Okay.
But before we go, I want to leave our listener with one final thought.
Yeah.
If business has been such a driving force in American history, shaping our values, our institutions,
Right.
What responsibility do businesses today have in addressing the challenges we face as a nation?
That's a powerful question, and one that Enterprising Americans encourages us to ponder,
Yeah.
It reminds us that business history isn't just about the past. It's about understanding the forces that have shaped our present and will continue to shape our future.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Enterprising Americans.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
If you're interested in exploring these ideas further, I highly recommend checking out the book for yourself. It's a fascinating read that will give you a new perspective on American history.
I couldn't agree more.
And on that note, we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.
Today is your lucky day. Today is the day that our $3 website works for you, paying you directly to your PayPal daily. Imagine $3 ongoing continuous payments to your PayPal account. Imagine falling asleep and waking up to $300 in your PayPal account. How would this make you feel? How could this help you? What bills could you pay? What kind of fun could you have? What does that retirement look like now? All for a one-time payment of $3. This website is DFY done for you, fully built and completely hosted, and never stops collecting payments for you. You have spent $3 on coffee on a regular, but that coffee won't help you create multiple streams of income. Click the link below.